It's now 2025 and the desire to get that retro photo look with your digital cameras is here to stay. If you're anything like me, you probably grew up in the 90s shooting on a camera like one of these point and shoots 35mm film camera. I grew up shooting with an Olympus XA3, and having this camera again has brought back so many happy memories. But shooting film is extremely expensive. We've seen companies launch lenses like this, the retro camera lens. This is a lens taken from a disposable camera and adapted to fit on a modern full frame camera. I do cover this lens in a previous video, so look out for that one. But in this video, I'm going to talk about one of the best ways to get a retro vintage feel to shooting with modern digital cameras. We're going to talk about shooting with this absolute beast of a lens. It's the Helios 442 50mm f2 lens. It was made in the 1970s in USSR and is an absolutely amazing vintage lens. I picked up this lens with this Sony E camera from a local bric-a-brac store that just kind of sells second-hand items that people have donated. It's called Recycling York, really cool shop. Unfortunately, the locking mechanism on the Zenit is not working, so there's no way that you could put film in this. So I did manage to pick up this camera for a tenner. That's 10 English pounds if you're watching anywhere that's not in England. Having picked up this lens for just a tenner, I needed a way to connect it to my Sony A7III camera, and I found on Amazon this newer M42 to Sony E-mount adapter, and what an absolute bargain it's been to pick up this Helios lens for a tenner and the adapter for around 20 quid. This becomes a fully manual vintage lens on a modern mirrorless Sony camera. It's absolutely fantastic to use. With the new adapter, the lens is fully manual. You control the aperture with the outside ring and the focusing on the main lens body itself. You can set the shutter speed and ISO in body on the camera. The first time I took this setup out to use the Helios lens was at a live music event at the Fulford Arms, the One for the Road festival at the back end of last year. I managed to take some fantastic photographs of the bands and musicians that performed at the event, and I also wandered around the venue shooting some of the audience. Let's take a look at some of those photographs now. As you can see from those photos, this lens performed absolutely amazing in the low light of the live music venue, and it's entirely possible to shoot live bands manual focus with a vintage lens. However, some of my favourite photographs from the event was when I wandered outside and I took some portraits of one of the bands loading equipment in, and some of my friends and the audience members outside the venue in the beer garden. So let's take a look at those. The next couple of photos I'm going to show you are a couple of street photography photos that I took with this lens. This first photo was taken outside a restaurant called Zap, and I was wandering past and I noticed a light going across the floor, and I followed the beam of light and it just shone perfectly on someone sat at one of the tables. And as I looked at that closer, I noticed the person at the table was wearing a red top, and the light went all the way up to a red sign pointing down at them. I absolutely loved this photo, and it was a great capture with this lens. This next photo, I'd wandered a little bit further down the street and I noticed this person sat in a green coat outside Starbucks with a green sign, and also noticed the green bike. I thought this was a really cool composition, and I love the colours of the green objects forming a triangle in this photo. After taking those two photographs, I wandered a little bit further down the road where I met my friend Gianluca, the organiser of York Photographers. He's an amazing photographer. He's Italian, based in York, and I managed to capture this photo as I was walking into the coffee shop to meet him. So I had a quick brew with my friend Jan, and unfortunately the light was getting a bit dim, so I didn't take any more photos that day. However, the following day Jan had organised a York Photographers book social meetup event. It was a great event. Lots of photographers from York brought their favourite photography books. We talked about photography and books. It was fantastic, and I took this lens and got these photographs. Well, now we've seen some photographs that I've taken with this lens, let's talk about my experience shooting with it. I thoroughly enjoyed shooting with this lens. It was absolutely fantastic to use and gave me that real vintage analog manual photography feel. Now, the one thing to point out about using this particular lens with this particular newer adapter is when it is fully screwed onto the newer adapter, it is mounted onto the camera upside down. Now, what I mean by that is the focusing distance and the aperture points are actually then on the bottom of the camera. Now, didn't find this an issue as such because I was just shooting through the viewfinder and eyeballing the aperture and focus manually, but it is something to bear in mind. However, it's great practice for manual photography. I've had a lot of fun shooting with the Helios lens, and it will be a mainstay in my camera bag. I'll take it everywhere with me just in case I fancy using it. But you can't beat 35mm film photography for that real authentic vintage look. If you've enjoyed this video, I do have lots of videos shooting film photography, so be sure to check those out as well. However, that being said, I enjoyed shooting with the Helios lens so much, I have recently picked up this Canon FD to Sony E-mount adapter, which is going to allow me to use all the lenses that I've got for my Canon AE1 program with my Sony A7III. So I haven't tried that out yet, but I am massively looking forward to using the different lenses that I've got, because I have got quite a collection of Canon FD lenses. So subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.